gotta wonder, right? This is 2023, July. People are talking about names. They're the names of some humans that may or may not be able to take control of some of the instruments of power that we call the government. Our leaders, let's say. So, societies have leaders. While you're alive, those leaders have names. You're thinking about the names. You're like, oh, these names. So what is a name? It's a collection of deeds over a span of time, okay? So all the names that are possible are called. They can become anything they want to become to the limitations imposed by reality's feedback loop. And so in that system, what are we? What is the individual capable of being, and how do you analyze a continuum of individuals for, like, obviously for similar and dissimilar characteristics? So if we are living in a system that requires us to have some level of monitoring on our environment so that we can comprehend the elements that are presenting themselves to us, then in that model, the game of reality is the presentation of objects that can be named, nameable objects. So what humans do is name objects, and then they attempt to understand the mechanics of the objects or the behavior of objects over time. It apparently begins with the ability to understand food, what is good for us, what is not good for us. And I'm saying us, I mean all living things that are sensing their environment, trying to pull data out of the environment that will follow a gradient of positive or negative response. And so a paramecium is floating around. We can see it in a microscope, this living thing, and it'll find the trace of sugar and follow the sugar path, or it will sense like a danger, another bacteria that might try to eat it. And by sensing the environment, it modifies its behavior and it creates a feedback loop with the environment. The environment pre-exists the formation of an individual frame of reference. And so in a system of frames of reference, you want to quantify your relationships with other objects. And so how do you do that? Well, I mean, there are a number of approaches. I think the foundational approach is that you use a logical system, a tautology, to narrow the scope of any kind of evaluation you're going to make against the set of humans. So you would say against the set of humans there are certain physical characteristics that are immutable because they're based on laws of physics, such as height, weight, density. Those things are objective measures of reality that the individual doesn't have the apparent ability to control through willpower alone. The remainder of the differentiation of humans exists in the social continuum, where we use a semantic universe, we use a theatric universe, we use all of the possible libraries of abilities that will unpack success in our environment. Or the goal is success, or the goal is failure. I mean, there's like numbers of ways to behave or perform. Humans are so capable of this diverse outcomes. And then the mathematics of why that diversity could exist on top of inert chemicals. Inert chemicals filled with human. Or jumping around like human, okay? And so that's true for all humans. All humans are real. And so their semantic viewpoint of the universe is a thing that can be quantified across their libraries. And so it's going to be libraries of known words, knowable words, ways to construct words, word elements, prefixes, suffixes. There are these tools that are used to construct words, new descriptions. Usually it's chains of words that are occurring with different associations, or consider it frequencies. The same elements with different folding. So our formation of reality has these general characteristics that that you can map, and then through the mapping you can achieve autonomous mechanical appearance of semantic individuation, or but there's a different kind of reasoning that is abductive reasoning that, I mean, I would say it's like, as an outcome, likely can be emulated, but I don't know that it can be graphed with traditional graph theory. The eruption of successful conclusions in the human mind the rate of convergence is the meaningful determinant of the types of logic that it's not types of logic, it's the way that you determine the efficiency of logical calculations against a non-moving target, against a static truth. So humans are static truths insofar as they're using a semantic universe to form interactions. But there are people who have to use sign language, who are deaf. There are people who cannot see, that wouldn't be able to understand sign language. So we actually are a fuzzy continuum of self-referential and external world referential viewpoints. And those viewpoints can only be translated through so many means. And so, in order to comprehend language, you need a symbolic system. It's not that you don't understand that a noise can represent a thing. It's that you need to see a relationship between a noise representing a thing and the thing also representing alphanumeric characters, or any kind of character, or cuneiform, or whatever it is. You're encoding it simultaneously in a sound and a structure to make the sound. But it doesn't have to be a sound. Understanding how sound forms from language. There's something that you know. That's a really deep well, because it goes back to our ancestors. You know, I mean, I want you to think back, like, oh, we're in school, we're learning how to use words, and there's electric lights, but our ancestors, man, what the brutality was that? They had to save seeds. They didn't have refrigeration or any of the modern conveniences whatsoever. I'm just saying that they had to be so serious all the time. Only kings or queens or something could possibly have any kind of meaningful luxury. And I'm saying meaningful luxury usually relates to, like, oh, can you get like different exotic types of food? Well, you know, where we are today, I mean, you can get avocados, you can get pepper, you can get just like vanilla, okay? It comes from the bean of an orchid. I mean, one food comes from an orchid. There is no other orchid food. I think they're all like toxic, will kill you. Somehow humans figured out that the beans of one of these plants makes vanilla. So, you know, all of that is our ancestors, and they just dumped all that stuff in on top of us now like a cauldron, you know. They're like, okay, let's dump in like super knowledge, like everything is figured out, woo, like, and now you're just born in there. You don't have to learn anything anymore because most of the problems are solved. It's like there are problems still to solve, okay, clearly. The problem of, well, I mean, so problems exist because it's a game, or games are playable because there are problems to solve. There are some games where there are no problems to solve. I mean, I think there's just like open maps without any quests. Like, they're called reality and simultaneously like maybe lame game. Lame game is just like there's no obvious objective. I guess you'd have people who were the best and people who were the worst of consciousness, manifesting whatever they chose to do. Yeah, so, I mean, it's freedom and it's torture at the same time. But America had that beautiful thing, you know, that beautiful thing where people could just say whatever they wanted to say. You could just laugh them down because you weren't so like intolerant of ignorance. Ignorance isn't a thing to be intolerant of, it's a thing to laugh at. And the laughter is where you win, not the intolerance. And this is true on every possible way to do it. Except for maybe one, real horror.